Sometimes the weight of divine expectation feels unbearable. As the chosen one, you are not merely walking through life. You are walking through sacred fire. God has seen every move you've made, every word you've spoken, every moment of hesitation, pride, rebellion, and doubt. And right now, you may be feeling that weight like never before. You may feel exposed. You may feel like God has turned his face from you, disappointed in what you've become, or perhaps in what you haven't become. But the truth that will carry you through this season is this: even in God's disappointment, he is not done with you yet. His purpose is not cancelled. His plans have not been revoked. He sees the failure, but he also sees the fire that still burns in your spirit. That fire is why he chose you in the first place. Please watch this video all the way until the end, because something in your spirit is going to be reignited before we finish. This moment isn't just about feeling convicted, it's about transformation. If you feel the shift within you, even as you hear these words, pause and type your warmest wishes and 77 in the comments. That number is symbolic of divine awakening. When you do, you set energy into motion. You declare that your wishes are on the path of becoming real, and you open your heart to healing, correction, and a renewed alignment with the universe. Let this be the moment your spirit begins rising again. Disappointment from God is one of the most sobering feelings a chosen one can experience. It doesn't come from a place of wrath or abandonment. It's born out of divine love and immense expectation. God sees what you were created to be. He sees what you're capable of, even when you refuse to see it in yourself. And when your choices, your silence, your disobedience, or even your indifference pull you further away from that divine image, it grieves his heart, not because you've failed, but because he knows what's inside you. He knows you were built to rise higher, to lead stronger, to walk more boldly in truth and light. When a soul chosen by God veers off course, it doesn't just disrupt their own life, it shakes the alignment of everything they were meant to influence. This isn't about punishment. This is about a divine course correction. You may have lost your focus. You may have allowed fear, shame, or comfort to override obedience. You may have procrastinated on assignments God placed on your heart, or abandoned your calling when the pressure got too heavy. You may have hardened your heart when God tried to discipline you gently, and now you feel distant, you feel unworthy, you feel like the connection has weakened. But that whisper in your spirit, telling you to get back up, that's not just your conscience. That's God's voice, still calling your name. Because even when he's disappointed, he's still invested. Your identity as a chosen one didn't begin with perfection. It began with surrender. It began with a brokenness that made space for holiness to move in. And that is what God is trying to bring you back to. Not performance, not image, not prideful self-reliance, but radical surrender. That is where you are most powerful. That is when heaven moved on your behalf. And that's what God is waiting for again. Not a flawless version of you, but a surrendered one. Because he still sees the one he anointed. He still sees the one he whispered to in the dark. The one who cried out for purpose. The one who promised to follow even when it hurt. What you're feeling now is a divine invitation to return. Not just return to faith, but to alignment. Return to the place in your soul where the call first found you. Return to the truth you used to declare so boldly before distraction crept in. You are not disqualified. You are being refined. This wilderness isn't your punishment, it's your preparation. When God is disappointed, it is never the end of your story. It is an opportunity for transformation, for revelation, and for elevation. You may be wondering why everything feels paused, why your prayers are bouncing off the ceiling, why the fire doesn't burn like it used to. It's because God is calling you deeper. The superficial answers, the shallow routines, the lip service faith, it's not enough for this next level. He's calling you into maturity, into discipline, into honesty, into an unshakable intimacy that isn't based on emotional highs, but on unmovable roots. That's why he's silent sometimes. That's why he's waiting. Because he doesn't want just your excitement. He wants your obedience. He doesn't want just your words. He wants your actions. He doesn't want just your presence in the room. He wants your submission to his presence in your life. This feeling of being out of alignment is not your enemy. It's your compass. The heaviness you feel isn't meant to crush you. It's meant to break open the parts of you that have grown cold, distracted, and distant. That burden is your blessing. That ache is your answer. You are being called back into a deeper intimacy because your assignment is still active. You're not forgotten. You're not forsaken. You're being remolded. Chosen one, remember this. Disappointment is temporary, but destiny is eternal. The same God who called you when you were unqualified is still calling you now. He's not looking for a performance. He's looking for your heart. He knows that life has scarred you, that betrayal has hardened you, that disappointment in others has dulled your passion. But those very wounds are part of your preparation. That heartbreak built your compassion. That failure grew your discernment. That delay strengthened your endurance. Nothing was wasted. Even in your lowest moments, God was crafting something eternal within you. So what do you do now? You get honest. You get still. You get on your knees, not in guilt, but in hunger. You ask God to search your heart. You ask him to expose what you've hidden from even yourself. You lay down your agenda, your image, your excuses, and your pain. And you simply say, yes, again. Say yes to being used. Say yes to being corrected. Say yes to being remade. Say yes to being loved, even when you feel unlovable. That is where your restoration begins. That is where the anointing flows again. That is where heaven reopens over your life. You have not missed your moment. You've just mismanaged a season. And seasons shift. Grace resets. God restores. The key is your response. Don't run from the discipline. Don't hide from the discomfort. Let it mold you. Let it purify your motives. Let it strip away everything that doesn't reflect the one God destined you to be. This is not your fall. It's your formation. You are still chosen. You are still called. You are still capable. But you must make the choice to return, not just to God, but to your true self. The self that heaven knows. The self that hell fears. The self that your circumstances have tried to bury. That version of you is not dead. It's dormant. And this disappointment is the water that will wake it up. God is not done with you. He is reawakening you for what's next. Even in this moment of conviction, know this. God's love is not fragile. He is not pacing heaven, second-guessing his decision to call you. He chose you knowing full well every mistake you would make. His plan accounted for your humanity. That's why his grace is so powerful, because it reaches even here, especially here. This is where his power is perfected, in your weakness, in your wandering, in your surrender. You're not too far gone. You're just one honest prayer away from alignment, one decision away from obedience, one moment away from restoration. Don't let shame keep you stagnant. Don't let fear make you silent. And don't let guilt convince you you're alone. You are still in the hands of God, and His disappointment is proof that He hasn't given up on you. He disciplines those He loves, and He refines those He's preparing for more. There is still a mantle over your life. There is still a mission tied to your name. And though you may feel the weight of divine disappointment, remember this: you are also being carried by divine mercy. Let that be your anchor. Let that be your beginning again. When you've been chosen, every part of your life carries more spiritual weight than you realize. Your actions ripple further. Your silence is louder. Your hesitation slows not only your journey, but the unlocking of blessings that were meant to flow through you to others. So when God is disappointed, it's not just about a single mistake or a wrong turn. It's about a divine rhythm being disrupted. It's about a kingdom echo going silent. But even in that silence, God is crafting a moment for you to awaken, not from punishment, but from purpose. There's something sacred in knowing God is still watching over you, even when He's not visibly intervening. The silence is not abandonment. It's intentional. It's surgical. God's disappointment is not about condemning you. It's about confronting you, not to break your spirit, but to reset it. Because the life you are called to lead is too important to be built on foundations that are cracked by ego, laziness, fear, or compromise. You may not want to look at the parts of yourself that led you here. You may want to numb the guilt or distract yourself with routine. But chosen ones cannot afford spiritual apathy. Your life is not casual. Your voice is not ordinary. You are not born to blend in or to coast through existence numb to your potential. You are made for holy disruption. You are called to shift atmospheres. And God's disappointment is His way of snapping you back into that reality when you've been lulled to sleep. There is nothing more sobering than realizing you've been drifting, not dramatically, but subtly. That slow fade into comfort, that gradual exchange of divine fire for worldly approval, that quiet compromise that began as a one-time slip and turned into a lifestyle of avoidance. And suddenly, the fire is cold, the passion is buried, and the call feels like a memory. That's when God steps in, not always with lightning, but often with silence. That silence says, "Come back." When God withdraws His tangible presence from the chosen, it creates a spiritual hunger that nothing else can fill. And that hunger is your lifeline. It's what will draw you out of stagnation and back into surrender. Don't despise that ache. It's evidence that God still wants more from you, that He still believes in what He placed inside you, that He hasn't given up, even if you have. But understand this: God won't beg you. He will beckon, convict, and position your circumstances to reveal your need, but He will not force your return. That decision must come from within, because divine intimacy requires willingness. Obedience must be chosen. If you want to step back into favor, you must also step back into submission. This is not about earning God's love. It's about honoring your calling. You were chosen for a reason. That reason hasn't vanished. It's waiting for you on the other side of your yes. Every chosen one has a season where they disappoint God, not because of rebellion alone, but because of resistance. Resistance to growth, to truth, to pruning. And God, in His mercy, lets us feel the weight of that resistance, not to destroy us, but to humble us. Pride cannot carry purpose, fear cannot carry legacy, and comfort cannot carry destiny. So he disrupts the comfortable patterns. He shakes the illusions. He lets things fall apart so you can finally fall to your knees. Don't mistake divine silence for divine absence. God is near, even in your lowest moment. He is near in the confusion, near in the brokenness, near in the regret. But he is also waiting for your return, your vulnerability, your surrender. He knows what you've done. He knows where your heart has drifted, but he also knows what's still inside you. That flame may be dim, but it's not extinguished. The journey back to alignment isn't about dramatic gestures. It's about consistent humility. It's about rebuilding your inner altar. It's about showing up for God when no one is watching. It's about repenting without performing and seeking Him even when the feelings aren't there. Obedience often starts dry, but as you move in faith, the rivers begin to flow again. That's how revival begins, in hidden places, in honest prayers, in raw surrender. You don't need to pretend. You don't need to perform. You need to return. You need to be real about the places you've shut God out, about the sins you've justified, about the callings you've ignored, about the relationships you've prioritized over obedience. These are the places God wants to heal, not with shame, but with truth. But truth requires exposure, and exposure requires courage. You must be brave enough to let God show you what you've become, so He can lead you back to who you are. There is a version of you the world hasn't seen yet, a version fully aligned, deeply grounded, and fiercely obedient. That version is on the other side of your surrender. That version is the one God is disappointed you've avoided, but still hopeful you will embrace. He hasn't revoked your calling. He hasn't erased your destiny, but He's waiting on you to wake up to it again. In the space between disappointment and destiny is a bridge called discipline. And walking across it won't always feel glorious. It will feel slow, quiet, lonely. But every step is reshaping you. Every act of obedience is reconstructing your authority. Every prayer you pray in the dark is preparing you to walk in the light again. This is the season where you choose refinement over resentment, where you choose growth over guilt, where you stop performing and start transforming. Many chosen ones never recover from God's disappointment because they misinterpret it as rejection. But if God were done with you, you wouldn't be convicted, you'd be numb. That discomfort you feel is a divine invitation to change. That shame you're battling is a call to bring it into the light. Nothing in your past can cancel your future unless you decide to stay stuck in it. You are not disqualified. You are in the process of being purified. And purification is painful. It strips, it exposes, it humbles, but it also renews, it aligns, it strengthens, it prepares. God is not just restoring what you lost. He's removing what you never needed. The delay was not just about time. It was about becoming. God is shaping you into someone who can carry the weight of what's coming. You had to be disappointed in yourself before you could fully rely on Him. You had to feel the distance to understand the value of nearness. Don't let this moment pass you by. Don't brush it off. Sit in it. Wrestle with it. Bring it before God and say, I don't want to miss this lesson. I don't want to numb this pain. I want to change. I want to grow. I want to return. That's what God wants to hear. Not excuses, not justifications, not empty promises, but honest surrender. This is where transformation begins, in the ashes, in the aftermath of mistakes, in the realization that your strength is not enough, and in the decision to let God lead again. You're not too far. You're not too broken. You're just in transition. And this disappointment is the door you must walk through to reach your divine becoming. The silence is loud because God is speaking in ways you're not used to. He's not just correcting your actions, He's correcting your posture. He's reshaping your intentions. He's breaking off the false identities you've built to protect your ego. And He's calling forth the warrior, the vessel, the prophet, the voice, the healer, the leader inside of you. But that version of you can't rise until you lay this one down. There is glory on the other side of this refinement. There is favor on the other side of this surrender. And there is purpose on the other side of this pain. But you must decide to keep walking, even when it hurts, even when it's quiet, even when you feel unseen. Especially then, because that's where the shift happens. That's where God shows up, not to condemn, but to commission you again. The disappointment you feel is the beginning of divine discipline. But discipline is a gift. It is the evidence that God still sees you as His. And if He still sees you as His, then your story is not finished. It's just beginning again. There comes a moment in every chosen one's journey when the silence becomes deafening, when the doors that once opened easily now remain closed, when the presence of God feels like a memory rather than a companion. In that place, you're not being ignored, you're being invited. Invited to grow, to confront, to evolve. And while God's disappointment may be real, it is also a sign of divine attention. You cannot disappoint someone who has turned their back on you. His disappointment means his eyes are still on you, his heart still invested in your journey. This is the hard part of being chosen, the part no one teaches you. Being chosen doesn't mean being celebrated all the time. It means being shaped, forged, pressed, and sometimes even wounded by the hand of the one who loves you too much to leave you mediocre. It means being held to a higher standard because what you carry has higher stakes. When God is disappointed, it's not about anger, it's about urgency. He sees the cracks forming in your foundation. He sees the distractions pulling you off course. And in His mercy, He intervenes, not always through blessings, but sometimes through blockages. Some of the closed doors in your life are not the enemy's work. They're God's restraint. He's not punishing you. He's preserving you. He's holding back certain opportunities because He knows the state of your heart can't sustain what your mouth is asking for. He's delaying breakthroughs because the version of you that you are right now isn't ready to carry them. And that realization stings. It humbles. It exposes. But it also heals. Because once you realize that God's disappointment is rooted in His desire to develop you, you stop running from it and start learning through it. This is your training ground, chosen one. This is where you relearn what it means to be faithful without fanfare, to show up in the quiet, to pray without emotional highs, to fast even when nothing shifts, to obey even when you don't feel inspired. Because true alignment isn't built in glory, it's built in grit. It's built in those moments where you choose to believe even when everything in you wants to give up. And that's what God is watching. Not just your results, but your resolve. You may feel ashamed. You may look at your life and see all the things you should have done differently. But shame is not your portion. Growth is. You cannot change the past, but you can surrender the present. You can say, God, I see where I went wrong. I see where I settled, where I disobeyed, where I delayed. But I don't want to live in regret. I want to rise in purpose. That prayer may be whispered through tears, but it carries power. It reopens spiritual doors. It realigns your destiny. Because repentance is not weakness, it is the gateway to restoration. The enemy would love for you to drown in guilt. He wants you stuck in cycles of self-condemnation, so you never reach your next level. He wants you to believe that God's silence is final, that your mistake is fatal, that your calling has been revoked. But that's a lie. You're still breathing. You're still being stirred. You're still being drawn. That means you're still chosen. And being chosen means being fought for, even when you've stopped fighting for yourself. Understand this deeply. The grace of God doesn't just cover sin. It empowers transformation. Grace is not a permission slip to remain unchanged. It's the power to become who you were always meant to be. That's what God is offering you in this season. Not just forgiveness, but formation. Not just peace, but purpose. Not just restoration, but resurrection. God wants to resurrect the parts of you that doubt buried, the dreams you let die because of fear, the faith you let fade because of disappointment, the passion you let dim because of rejection. Those pieces are not lost forever. They are waiting, dormant, silent, but still alive. And if you dare to believe again, to say yes again, to step into the unknown again, they will rise. And when they rise, so will you. There is a reason you're still here. There is a reason God is still stirring your spirit, even through disappointment. It's because your voice still matters. Your presence still shifts atmospheres. Your obedience still activates blessings. Your journey still holds significance. But you must stop living in the shadows of what went wrong. You must stop rehearsing your failures and start declaring your future. Chosen one, you were never called to perfection. You were called to persistence. You were never expected to have all the answers. You were expected to keep seeking, to keep knocking, to keep growing. The enemy may have tripped you up, but he didn't take you out. You're still standing. And if you're still standing, you can still surrender. Surrender is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's the realization that your way isn't working, that your pride is exhausting you, that your independence has become a prison. And in that realization, you find freedom. Because surrender doesn't mean giving up, it means giving over. Giving your plans, your pain, your timing, your control back to the God who saw you in your mother's womb and still chose you. Even now, He's not looking at you with crossed arms and disappointment. He's reaching out with open hands and desire. Desire for intimacy. Desire for trust. Desire for collaboration. God doesn't need you, but He wants you. That's the beauty of grace. He wants to write a story with your life that will echo in eternity. But for that to happen, you must let go of who you were and embrace who you're becoming. That becoming won't happen overnight. It won't be linear. There will be setbacks. There will be doubt. There will be temptation to return to old ways. But every time you choose obedience over comfort, you're shifting. Every time you choose prayer over distraction, you're maturing. Every time you show up for God when no one else sees, you're planting roots. And those roots will one day bear fruit that generations will eat from. This is not just about your personal healing. It's about legacy. It's about breaking cycles, about shifting bloodlines, about healing family patterns that have persisted for generations. You were chosen to be the interruption. And that is why the pressure has been intense. That's why the warfare has been relentless. Because you're not just living for yourself. You're pioneering a new path for those who will follow. God's disappointment is not a dead end. It's a divine redirection. He's redirecting you to your original design. The you that walked boldly, the you that dreamed wildly, the you that trusted deeply. That version of you is not naive. It is necessary. That version of you is what the kingdom needs. That version of you is the one the enemy fears, and that's the version God is calling you back to. Don't waste another day in spiritual limbo. Don't keep God waiting. He has things to show you, rooms to unlock, anointings to pour out. But He needs your full yes, not your partial obedience, not your negotiated surrender, your full, unfiltered, "I don't know what's next, but I trust you anyway." Yes, that is what unlocks the next season. That is what reopens heaven over your life. You're not stuck. You're being summoned. Summoned into growth, into maturity, into boldness, into the version of yourself that heaven always knew was possible. You've been disappointed in yourself. Others have disappointed you. And yes, God is disappointed too, but not defeated. He's still believing in you, still rooting for you, still orchestrating opportunities for your return. Let today be the day you stop hiding. Stop pretending. Stop delaying. Step back into alignment. Step back into the fire. Step back into the calling that was always yours. God is waiting, not with judgment, but with joy. Joy that His child has finally remembered who they are. Joy that the process is working. Joy that purpose is rising again. You're not just being forgiven, you're being fortified. You're not just being accepted, you're being activated. The season of drifting is over. The season of discipline is now. But beyond that, discipline is destiny, and it's still yours, chosen one, still waiting, still holy, still alive. Some of the most defining seasons in a chosen one's life aren't marked by great victories, but by quiet reckonings. These are the seasons when everything external seems to pause, while everything internal begins to stir. It's in these times when God allows the noise to fade, not to punish, but to prompt. When the distractions are stripped away and you're left facing the raw truth of where you are versus where you were meant to be. This gap can feel unbearable, but it's also the space where transformation is born. When God is disappointed in you, it's not because you failed to meet some impossible standard. It's because you've drifted from the original agreement, the agreement between your soul and heaven. The understanding that when you were sent here, you were sent for a purpose. And that purpose didn't involve becoming a copy of someone else. It didn't involve bowing to the pressure of fitting in. It didn't involve watering down your truth for the comfort of others. It was about becoming a light, becoming a voice, becoming a force. The heaviness you feel when you know you've disappointed God is not meant to crush you. It's meant to wake you. It's divine weight, pressing on your spirit to remind you of your spiritual DNA. You are not just another person wandering through life. You are a divine assignment in motion. Every time you settle for less than what you were made for, something inside you knows it. That stirring, that discomfort, that guilt. It's your soul calling you back to alignment. But God, in His mercy, never gives up on what He starts. He's not pacing in heaven frustrated that you didn't get it right the first time. He's patient. He's watching. He's giving you room to grow, to struggle, to wrestle. He's not afraid of your doubts, your delays, or your detours, but He is intentional in how He uses them. Every detour becomes a lesson. Every delay becomes a refinement. Every mistake becomes a mirror. If you let Him, God will use your very failures to shape your future. There's a version of you that has never truly seen the light of day because you've been too focused on surviving. And when you're in survival mode, your creativity dies, your joy fades, and your spiritual sensitivity dulls. That's not what God wants for you. He didn't choose you to survive. He chose you to shift things, to bring light into dark places, to break chains, to speak truth, to live with fire, not fear. But for that to happen, You have to get tired of running, tired of avoiding, tired of pretending. This is the season where the pretending must end. The masks you've worn to please others or protect yourself no longer serve you. God is not in love with your performance. He's in love with your potential. He doesn't want your act. He wants your authenticity. You don't need to impress him. You just need to be honest. Say, God, I'm lost. I'm tired. I'm unsure. But I still want you. That kind of raw honesty shakes heaven, because that is where real healing begins. Healing doesn't start with applause. It starts in the quiet, in the solitude, in the confessions you don't post online, in the tears you cry when no one's looking, in the questions you whisper into the dark. God is in those moments. He's there, listening, not with disappointment that pushes you away, but with disappointment that draws you close. That says, I know what I placed in you. Come back to it. Somewhere along the way, you started doubting your own fire. Maybe life beat it out of you. Maybe people ridiculed your passion. Maybe the failures felt like confirmation that you were never really meant for greatness. But that's a lie. You were meant to rise, meant to influence, meant to lead, meant to create, meant to ignite others. Your fire wasn't the problem. Your environment was. Your associations were. Your unhealed wounds were. But your fire, your essence, was always holy. And now God is calling you to relight that fire. Not for recognition, not for validation, but because it's who you are. When a chosen one goes dim, something in the world suffers. A vibration is missing. A frequency of healing and awakening is absent. And God is grieved, not because he needs you, but because the world does. You were not sent here to merely exist. You were sent here to echo heaven in human form. The danger of staying disconnected from your calling is that the longer you wait, the more numb you become. And numbness is spiritual death in slow motion. When you stop feeling conviction, you stop growing. When you stop growing, you stop being useful. And when you stop being useful, the enemy has already won. He doesn't need to destroy you. He just needs to convince you to settle. But you weren't born to settle. You were born to disrupt. And that disruption starts by saying, I'm done living beneath my purpose. That one decision, one honest, quiet decision, can shift everything. You don't need to figure it all out today. You just need to come back. Start again. Rebuild your spiritual core. Ask the hard questions. Make the difficult choices. Let go of the things that numb you. Choose the things that feed your soul, not just your ego. Choose alignment over approval. Choose destiny over delay. If you think you've disappointed God too deeply to be restored, you've misunderstood his heart. His disappointment is temporary. His mercy is eternal. He's not measuring your worth by your weakest moment. He's looking at the totality of your potential. And he still says, you're worth it. Even in your rebellion, even in your silence, even in your shame, you are still the one he's waiting for. The shame you carry is not your punishment. It's your signal. A signal that something deeper needs attention. Shame doesn't mean you're unworthy. It means you need healing. And healing is available. It begins the moment you stop hiding and start surrendering. Shame cannot survive in the presence of God's truth. And his truth is this: you are still chosen, still loved, still purposed. But purpose doesn't move forward without movement. You have to choose every day, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. God doesn't need you to be perfect. He needs you to be consistent. He needs you to keep showing up, to keep yielding, to keep pressing forward. Your journey is not over. It's evolving. And that evolution is sacred. The fire you once had is not gone. It's buried, under disappointment, under heartbreak, under fear, but it's still there, waiting to be rekindled. You don't need a dramatic encounter. You need a consistent return. Return to prayer, return to solitude, return to the whispers of God. That's where the fire is. That's where the healing begins. That's where the real version of you is found. So, let this be your moment of awakening. Not a flash of emotion, but a deep resolve. A vow between you and God. I'm coming back. I'm choosing you again. I won't run from the weight of my calling. I won't hide behind excuses. I won't let fear have the final word. That declaration has power. It shakes the atmosphere. It signals to heaven that the chosen one is rising again. You are not done. You are not disqualified. You are not forgotten. You are simply being refined. And refinement is not rejection. It is preparation. God is sharpening you, softening you, strengthening you, so that when the next door opens, you'll be ready. Ready to walk in integrity. Ready to carry the blessing without it crushing you. Ready to speak with fire. Ready to lead with humility. Ready to become all that you were created to be. You're almost there. Don't stop now. Don't give up because of a setback. Don't let disappointment be your identity. Let it be your catalyst. Let it be the turning point. Let it be the proof that even in your lowest moment, heaven is still invested in your rise. The disappointment is real, but so is the destiny. Choose the destiny. There is a sacred pain that comes with realizing you've drifted from your higher path. It's not the pain of failure. It's the ache of wasted time. The sting of knowing that you were meant for more and yet settled for less. But what you must remember is this: the time you think you've wasted is not beyond redemption. God has a way of restoring what was lost, of redeeming what was delayed, and of making even your mistakes part of the masterpiece. You may feel as though you're at a crossroads between what was and what could be. You can see flashes of who you used to be, hopeful, passionate, on fire for purpose, and you can also feel the weight of who you've become in seasons of survival, seasons of compromise, seasons of doubt. But the mere fact that you are still aware of this contrast is proof that you haven't gone too far. If you were truly disconnected, you wouldn't care. But because you feel the tension, because you sense that divine disappointment, it means you are still tethered to something higher. God is not looking to punish you for your delay. He's looking to partner with you in your return. He's not sitting on a throne, waiting to condemn. He's leaning in, whispering, urging you to come home, not just to him, but to yourself. The real you, the original version of you that had clarity, that didn't settle, that didn't shrink, that moved boldly because you knew your presence was necessary. Some of you are caught in a season where you're emotionally fatigued because you've been pretending for too long. Pretending to be okay, pretending to be aligned, pretending to be strong. But your soul knows the truth. Your soul is tired of the show, tired of half obedience, tired of distractions dressed up as destiny. And the longer you perform, the more distant you become from your real purpose. It's time to lay the performance down, to get honest, to let God rebuild you from the inside out. That rebuilding won't look like what you expect. It won't start with applause or affirmation. It will start with stillness, with simplicity, with humility. It may mean letting go of some people. It may mean walking away from some habits. It may mean starting over in areas where you thought you were secure. But whatever it costs you to return to alignment, it will be worth it. Because nothing is heavier than carrying a calling you refuse to walk in, And make no mistake, you are still carrying it. It didn't leave you. It didn't dissolve because of the mistakes. The calling is still intact. But God won't force it on you. He will wait. He will watch. And in the silence, He will give you space to choose. The disappointment you feel in this season is divine pressure, not to crush you, but to wake you. It's a reminder that heaven has not forgotten you, that your name is still whispered in spiritual places, and that your assignment is still active. But you must be willing to make the hard shifts, to leave behind the comfort of complacency, to step away from the noise, to say no to the things that drain your spirit, even if they entertain your ego. You can't serve your calling and your comfort at the same time. One will always dominate the other. And if you keep choosing what's easy, you'll never experience what's eternal. There's a deep grief in God's heart when a chosen one chooses safety over purpose. When He's poured so much into you, gifts, ideas, visions, revelation, and it all sits dormant because fear convinced you to stay small. But the truth is, the world doesn't benefit from your safety. It benefits from your surrender, from your willingness to be seen, to speak, to create, to lead, even when it costs you something. And yes, it will cost you. Obedience always does. It costs you your excuses, your pride, your need for control, your fear of rejection. But what it gives you in return is so much greater: peace that doesn't waver with public opinion, strength that doesn't depend on validation, and a spiritual clarity that silences all confusion. You don't have to keep explaining yourself to people who don't understand your journey. You don't have to keep proving your worth to people who were never assigned to your purpose. God's disappointment in you is not based on what others think of you. It's based on what He knows about you. He knows your capacity. He knows your calling. He knows what He placed in you. And when you live beneath that, not only do you suffer, but so does everything your obedience was meant to unlock. There are people attached to your yes, souls who are waiting for you to rise so that they can be lifted. Environments that will shift once you step into position. Cycles that will be broken once you choose discipline. You are not isolated, you are interconnected. And when you delay, it's not just your future that's affected. It's a whole lineage of impact that's being postponed. But the beauty of God's grace is that no delay is final. If you return now, He can redeem it. If you shift now, He can accelerate it. If you say yes now, He can open doors you thought you missed. He's not interested in shaming you. He's interested in shaping you. He's not done with you. He never was. The disappointment was never a declaration of your failure. It was a revelation of how much more there is inside you. And there is more. More joy, more peace, more power, more creativity, more influence, more intimacy with God. But you'll never experience it if you keep resisting the inner work. You've been asking for a breakthrough when God is asking for obedience. You've been waiting for a sign when He's waiting for surrender. This isn't about begging God to show up. It's about being brave enough to step back into alignment so you can see that He's been here the whole time. You don't need to be perfect to come back. You just need to be willing to let go of your timelines, willing to admit you were wrong, willing to walk away from the image you created to protect yourself, willing to be remade. And that's a hard place to be, but it's also holy, because in that place, you stop striving and start trusting. And when you trust God again, fully, vulnerably, unapologetically, you start to see everything differently. The very things you thought were setbacks become setups. The pain you thought disqualified you becomes the platform from which you speak healing. The delays you resented become the preparation you didn't know you needed. That's how God works. He wastes nothing. Not your tears, not your questions, not even your rebellion. Chosen one, you may feel like you've drifted too far, but you haven't. You may feel like you've missed too many chances. You haven't. As long as there's breath in your body, there's purpose on your life. But you have to take the first step. No one can do it for you. Not your friends, not your pastor, not even your family. This is your moment, your decision, your breakthrough. And breakthrough doesn't start with noise. It starts in stillness. It starts when you fall to your knees and say, God, I'm tired of running. I'm tired of performing. I'm tired of surviving. I want to live. I want to be who you saw when you created me. That prayer, prayed from a real place, has the power to shift atmospheres. It has the power to pull you out of spiritual darkness and back into divine direction. Don't ignore the pull. Don't numb the pain. Don't silence the voice inside you that's begging for change. This is your wake-up call. And not because you failed, but because you're needed. The world doesn't need a perfect version of you. It needs the honest one, the one who's willing to rise even after falling, the one who's willing to return even after running. You haven't lost your chance. You've just been given another one. Use it. Somewhere deep in your spirit, you already know this is not how your story ends. You feel it every time you wake up with the quiet ache of purpose still unfulfilled. You sense it in the silence between your distractions. You know there's more, and not just more to do, but more to become. That's what divine disappointment truly points to. It doesn't signal the end, it signals the beginning of a new layer of transformation that you've been resisting for too long. It's easy to assume that because you fell short, you forfeited your role. But the truth is, falling short is part of the process. There is no chosen one who walked their path without stumbling. No vessel of light who didn't once walk through darkness. The difference between being disqualified and being refined is your willingness to return, to admit the truth, to seek God not as a judge, but as a restorer. There's something sacred that happens when you finally break the cycle, when you no longer tolerate the patterns that keep pulling you away from who you are. God has been watching, not to accuse, but to invite, to bring you back to the conversation, to restore what disappointment tried to bury. Because here's what few understand. Divine disappointment is never the closing of a door. It's the knocking. It's the pounding on the door of your soul, calling you back to the original blueprint of your existence. And that blueprint is still valid, still powerful, still necessary. You have not been replaced. Your delay has not deleted your destiny. You haven't ruined God's plan. You've just postponed your participation in it. But He has kept it preserved, like a sacred scroll, waiting to be opened again. That assignment, that divine dream, that inner vision, it's been waiting for your heart to become soft enough, humble enough, surrendered enough to carry it with integrity. Because truthfully, that's what this disappointment has been about. Not rejection, but recalibration. Not punishment, but positioning. God was never trying to cast you aside. He was trying to bring you to the place where the version of you that He needs can finally rise. Not the version that pleases the crowd, not the one addicted to external success, but the one that walks with depth, with wisdom, with clarity, with the kind of fire that only comes from failure that's been surrendered. You've been asking, why did I have to go through all this? And the answer is to unlearn who you thought you had to be, to break the illusion, to cleanse your lens, to strip away every false identity so that what remains is pure. God doesn't build on illusions. He builds on truth. And sometimes that truth is found in the ashes of our own pride, our own independence, our own rebellion. But ashes are not the end. They are where beauty is born, where purpose rises with new strength. So don't fear the rebuilding process. Don't fear starting again. Don't let shame convince you it's too late, because shame lies, shame paralyzes, but grace resurrects. And grace is here now, whispering your name, not shouting, not accusing, whispering. Because God knows your spirit is tired. He knows your defenses are fragile, and He knows that what you need now isn't more pressure, but peace. Not more performance, but presence. His presence. And in His presence, there's no scoreboard, no tally of wrongs, no ranking of worthiness. There's just love. A love so fierce it chases you even in your hiding. A love so precise it knows how to reach the wounded parts of you without reopening the scars. A love so committed it refuses to give up, even when you do. That's who God is. That's the God who chose you. That's the God who is not done with you yet. You are not an accident. You are not forgotten. You are not too far gone. The breath in your lungs is proof that heaven still expects something from you. Something unique. Something divine. You weren't just chosen for comfort. You were chosen for contribution. Your words, your creativity, your insight, your sensitivity, these were never meant to be hidden. They were meant to be released into the world as evidence of God's hand on your life. But before you release them, you must return. Return to the altar of your authenticity. Return to the truth that once stirred your heart. Return to the innocence of belief before the wounds and the weariness. Not everything you lost needs to be recovered, but the real you does. The one buried beneath disappointment and delay. The one who dares to believe again, to love again, to try again. There is no shame in needing to be rebuilt. The enemy wants you to believe that your brokenness makes you unusable. But God specializes in using what the world discards, what the world overlooks, what religion says is too messy. God chooses the ones who've wrestled, who've questioned, who've failed, because when they rise with compassion. They rise with depth. They rise with substance. This is your invitation to rise, not because you've earned it, but because God still sees it in you. The potential, the promise, the presence. You were never meant to blend in, never meant to coast. You were born to carry light in dark places, to break generational curses, to speak life where death has ruled. And even if you forgot, God didn't. That's why the disappointment hits so hard, because what's on your life is too important to ignore. So stop hiding, stop pretending, stop delaying. This is your moment, your wake-up call, your reminder that the story is not over. God's disappointment was never about disowning you. It was about awakening you, about shaking you out of slumber so you could remember you are a chosen one, handpicked, set apart, designed with purpose. And this moment is holy ground. The moment where heaven leans close, not to condemn, but to comfort, not to cast out, but to call in, not to punish, but to prepare. You are being prepared, not discarded, molded, not rejected, loved, not left behind. So lift your head, take a breath, open your heart again. God isn't disappointed in who you are. He's simply calling you back to who you really are. The real you is still inside, still capable, still called, still chosen. And no matter how far you've wandered, no matter how long you've delayed, God's message remains unchanged. You may have disappointed Him, but He's not done with you yet.